also Lebanon, that is Middle East representatives, and it's interesting to hear what's going on about dialogue in these countries. The first speaker is Professor Ronney Gemayel. Are you with us online?
Oh. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you that you are with us. Just a few words about Professor. He was studied in Beirut, then in France, then in Dublin, Ireland, if I am right. And then he studied also as well in Rome, in Pontificio Instituto Orientale. Today, Professor is director of the Center for Arabic Christian Research and Documentation on the Faculty of Religious Sciences, University St. Joseph in Beirut. He is also the author of very famous articles and publications, as well as organizer of several research projects and seminars. And thank you, Professor, that you are with us. So today we will pay attention to the art, to your speech, Animosity between the Melkites and Catholicism through the lens of Christian Arabic literature. Please, the floor is yours.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I wish before starting to express my gratitude to the organizers who insisted that I could contribute even remotely. Many, many thanks. Exploring animosity through Christian Arabic literature in a provocative title for this conference, which aims to be ecumenical. However, between animosity and ecumenism, there is a common point, dialogue. While in the former case, the dialogue can be vehement, in the latter, the search for unity and friendship among Christians cannot be done without dialogue. By studying animosity in Christian Arabic literature, my goal is to highlight the content of the debate with the hope that the tone becomes more serene. My contribution originates from a research project initiated at CEDRAC, focusing on a set of Arabic texts from Christian debate on union with Rome, dating back to before 1750. I will try to share my screen so you can follow me. I hope it will work. Now, it's okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my presentation will be structured in 3 parts. Clarification of the corpus studied in the ecclesiastical and the context of research on Christian Arabic literature. Then the presentation of the corpus, and finally some preliminary research results. Let us start. Okay. In June 2021, CEDRAC launched the call for contributions on the occasion of the 3rd centenary of the 1724 division among the rooms of Antioch that will take place next year. It may be necessary to begin with a very brief explanation of the meaning of the term room. Room is a neologism created to avoid the translation of the Arabic term, often rendered in Greek. Indeed, this translation, which I contest, could create confusion between the Rooms and the Greeks from an ethnic and cultural perspective. Room refers to the Christian population in the Eastern Mediterranean basin that is Chalcedonian, and over the centuries had generally aligned itself with the theological, liturgical, and disciplinary positions of Constantinople. In July 1724, following the death of Athanasius Dabbas, the see of the Rome Patriarchate of Antioch was claimed by 2 two people, Seraphim Tanas and Silvestros of Cyprus. Unlike the common rivalries between candidates for the see of Antioch, the dual election in 1724 resulted in the creation of two separated churches, one adopting the qualifier Orthodox and the other one Catholic. The division was the result of a century, roughly from 1615 to 1715, during which Latin missionaries, sometimes with the support of or the opposition of European embassies, succeeded in promoting a movement towards union with Rome. During this century of uncertainty, some Rome hierarchs maintained good relation with Rome and the missionaries without posing a problem for the authorities of Constantinople. The history of the 1724 division is painful and still carries an unpleasant memory within the Rome community today. The 3 centuries have been marked by a rise of animosity between Orthodox and Catholic Romes, which has resulted in abundant literature of debates, if not polemics. Although the Second Vatican Council sparked an ecumenical spirit, the path of dialogue between the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Orthodox Church has not always been smooth. In reality, the ecumenical movement in the Catholic Church has sometimes made the division even more difficult to handle at the local level. It is in this delicate context, ecclesiastical context, that CEDRAC has launched its project to publish a historical and theological study on the 1724 division. The research results will be made public here, in the Orientale, 1 year from today, and we hope that it will take place in November. Now, I go forward for the context of research in Christian Arabic literature. As part of the research on 1724 division in Rome, Antioch, it is essential to study the literature of debates in the Arabic language between those in favor of the union of Rome's with Rome and those who are not. Eli Danawi from the University of Balaman and I have named this project DURR, that is, Debates on the Union between the Romes and Rome. You may be aware that Christian Arabic literature has been evaluated since the early 20th century, when the Chaldean Jesuit Luis Sheikho gradually published his catalogue of the Christian Arabic authors and their list of their works and manuscripts in Beirut. He was followed by Georg Graf, who published his famous Geschichte, the history of Christian Arabic literature. Graf conceived his history in 2 major periods, with the Council of Florence making the distinction between them. It is strange to make the distinction with a event who took place in Europe, but it is the fact that the history of the Christian Arabic literature is somehow was shaped by this council. In the first period, from the 8th to 11th century, is characterized by a significant intellectual contribution from Christians, especially in the region of Baghdad, under the Abbasid caliphs, who encouraged the literary production and translation. Without going to the details of periodization, I simply emphasize that on the conquests, one of the consequences of the Council of Florence was the dispatch of missionaries to the Levant, sparking a revival of Christian Arabic literature around the 16th century, and even more since the late 17th century, after the few centuries of intellectual dormancy. Since a Graf studied on Christian Arabic have developed over the decades. Theologians was gradually become convinced that Christian Arabic literature has a role to play in reconstructing the history of theology. As Arabic theology is contextual in an environment where Islam has prompted reflection, the development of interreligious dialogue theology during the 1980s and 1990s and the emergence of the question of Islam in the Western world after the September 11 have made the contribution of Arabic theology highly valuable. Thus, the first period outlined by Graf has captured the attention of researchers, unlike the second period. The post-Florentine period has a bad reputation, being considered a time of estrangement for the churches of the Middle East in relation to their own culture and heritage, given the Latin influence on the churches of the Levant. It is said that scholasticism shaped the mind of the Levantine authors to the extent that their genuine contribution is minimal. A shadow of shame hangs over this pre-Vatican II period, marked by self-assertion and controversy preceding dialogue and ecumenical openness. Minds are convinced, even today, that it would be better to relegate this phase of history to oblivion. In such a context, it is understandable that Christian Arabic literature from the second period is generally neglected. It is also understandable that polemical literature is considered outdated, useless, and of no interest. If I am not mistaken, only one article on the debate has been written since Vatican II. It was by Rashid Haddad in 1966. Now I come to my third point, the first part, to present the corpus of DURR. In this overview of Arabic literature studies, CEDRAC launched the DURR project to integrate text from the second post-Florentine period, especially debate, controversy, and polemics, into the research circuit. This project aimed to present a substantial review of the works, including the list of manuscripts and studies. This presentation should be preceded by a biographical notice of the author and a comprehensive bibliography. Those familiar with the literature of Christian-Muslim debate will recognize in our project the paradigm of Christian-Muslim relationships published by David Thomas in Oxford. To delimit the study at corpus, the first part of this research, and I hope that there will be a second part, the first part is devoted to the debates written between 1250 and 1750. Why these dates? Apart from representing a round figure of 500 years, they also define the interval that encompasses the first anti-Latin writing in Arabic, which is the translation of the Typicon of Nikon of the Black Mountain, and the writing of the generation of authors who lived through the events of 1724. We have established the list of work in the corpus based on Graf's history and Nasrallah's history. For those who are unfamiliar with this name, Nasrallah is the one who updated Graf's history, focusing particularly on the Rome community. As of today, the corpus includes 86 authors, of which 43 are anonymous, and 209 works. What we term a work constitutes a rather disparate corpus in terms of length. It goes from 400 word to 100,000 word. And it's also disparate as a literary genre, from systematic exposition of faith, epistles, homilies, etc. Only 6 of our work are no longer accessible. They have been identified in catalogs, but are currently unavailable. if you want to have an idea, here is the list. I won't go through the names, it will be too fastidious. But we can also at least observe in this list the work of missionaries from the second half of the 17th century that were only found in Aleppo in the early 20th century. And after that, we have no trace of them. Okay. My second part of my contribution is about the data at our disposal, a bit of statistics. The constitution of the manuscript collection and the digitalization of works from one of these manuscripts have already allowed the identification of several works and the clarification of certain duplications that escaped Graf and Masrallah. It would be inappropriate to detail the small discoveries here. These will certainly be published in due course. In the following, I will present the corpus, avoiding overwhelming you with titles and author's name as much as possible. Instead, I will highlight the statistical data, albeit provisional, as the comparison of results from 27 researchers involved has not yet been completed. The first point, periodization of the corpus. And I think it is the most important result that we have till now. The exact or approximate dating of works was possible except for 25 works. 6 of these dated works date back to the 3 centuries preceding the visit of Giovanni Battista Eliano to the Rome Patriarch of Antioch, Joachim ibn Daud, a visit that took place in the early 1580s. So we have 3 centuries where we find the translation of classical Byzantine anti-Latin works. It should be noted that this borrowing is very limited. The second period, after the Eliano's visit and the delivery of a letter to the Patriarch, a debate was initiated by Atanas Mujalli and Yohanna Musallem in response to Eliano's proposal. This debate focused on Gregorian calendar reform, the recognition of the Council of Florence as the 8th Ecumenical Council, the Filioque, and the unleavened bread. 2 responses to Atanas took place, one from an anonymous author and the other from a Capuchin, Bonaventure de Lude. This Capuchin worked in Aleppo and is the first missionary to leave a literary trace. We go forward to the third period from 1614 to 1695. For almost 50 years, we encounter an orthodox silence. The literary corpus of this period consists of several works by missionaries and some pro-Roman works by the Rome Patriarch, the famous Macarius ibn Zaim. We have already emphasized that not all of work from this period have reached us. However, the titles indicate a strong ecclesiological trend. We find a lot of treatises defending the true church and the genuine Church of Christ. Okay, after that, the Orthodox silence is broken in 1696 by 2 works from Jerusalem through the intermediary of Bishop Christodoulos of Gaza, and by the debates sparked by the letter on the epiclesis from the Patriarch of Alexandria. Just at the beginning of the 18th century, in 1702, Patriarch of Alexandria Gerasimos Pallados sent a letter on the epiclesis to defend its transformative power. He extended the action of the Holy Spirit to all 7 sacraments. This letter received 2 responses, a short one from Tripoli endorsing the Patriarch's teaching, and the other one from Aleppo rejecting this teaching, rooted, in their view, in the teaching of Nicola Cabasilas. They endorse that the power of transformation are to be found in the words of institution. A second Orthodox silence sets in from 1702 to 1721, giving Athanasius Saifi, the Bishop of Sidon and founder of Dar al-Mukhallis in June, who is the main instigator of the pro-Roman movement among the Romans. So this silence gave Artemus Saifi the stage to publish his works, including the famous Ad-Dalal al-Lami'a, printed in Rome in 1710. The second silence will be broken with the activity of Patriarch Athanasius Dabbas. We have already mentioned him, the last patriarch before the schism of the Rome of Antioch. He published in a single book the Petra Scandalou of Elias Meniates and portion of the Ectasis of Gabriel of Philadelphia. He also published the letter from the Council of Constantinople in 1723. This council is a main event in changing the attitude of the Antiochians toward the Latins, missionaries. Abdallah Zacher, a Catholic guy, will provide a response and sometime two to each text. It is only in 1727 that Elias Facher takes up the defense of orthodoxy after a period of collaboration with pro-Roman circles. In his defense of orthodoxy, Elias is surrounded and assisted by a polemical circle consisting of Sophronius of Kilis, Kyriakos of Patmos, Mas'ad Nashu, a priest from Cairo, and Yusuf Mark, a priest from Beirut. This circle of authors worked with a certain collaboration under the guidance of the Orthodox Rome Patriarch Sylvester of Cyprus. On the Catholic side, alongside Abdallah Zacher, are Joachim Moutran, the two Jesuits Pierre Fromage and Antoine Venturi, and Yusuf Babila. During the last period after 1721, we find 116 works compared to 46 works before that date. This means that in almost 13 years, the Rome community produced 2.5 times more debate works than it did in almost 500 years. This indicates the magnitude of tension and the sense of threat after the division. Okay.
Professor, just sorry to interrupt you, but maybe if you can do last 3-4 minutes, because...
Okay, I will go rapidly through the auto-denomination, affiliation, and number of works. We know we are able to identify the denominational affiliation of all authors, whether anonymous or not. Those who defend the Byzantine position are 43% and are responsible of almost 16% of the works. So we can guess that the DURR corpus is mainly Orthodox. What we can say about the preliminary result? Okay. We can say that we can glimpse at first the importance of the translation. The Orthodox or the Catholic are translating from Greek. It is the Greek literature for them is a reference. So and we can have a look on the names translated, like most important is Gabriel Sebastos of Philadelphia, Elia Miniatis, who else we can name, Neophytos Rhodinus, Stratus Argentis, etc., etc. Okay, we can say also that we have one aspect of this debate is a debate on occasions. Many works result from a reaction to any provocative, be it a letter, a poem, or another work. Abdullah Zafir is the most well-known for this back and forth reaction. It seems he left no work without a response. Okay, I will say that we can list 3 or 4 debates, important debates. One after the publication of the Athanasius Dabbas of the work of Elia Miniatis, and after this sparkled at least 4 or 5 reaction. We can say the same thing about after the publication of the Arabic translation of the Council of Constantinople in 1723. We can speak also about the debate on the epiclesis. We have here the list of all the works, and this debate took at least 40 years. Okay, and then there is an important also debate about the virginity of Saint Joseph, very peculiar theme, and here also 4 or 5 authors reacted. Finally, I would say that the typical subject of DUR, D-U-R-R, we can find some typical subject like the emergency or emanation of the holy fire from the Holy Sepulchre on Holy Saturday. This theme will come many times in the corpus. Another one could be the claim of the missionaries that they belong to the Petrine church. And here the Roman Antiochian in return emphasized belonging to the Church of Peter, who was initially in Antioch. We detect the beginning of theological elaboration of this theme between Athanasius Dabbas followed by Yusuf Mark and Elias Fakhr. Okay, maybe I have to finish here telling that if we speak about this memory of animosity, it's not to make the ecumenical dialogue and put a problem for the ecumenical dialogue, but it is a way to study the reality, not only the history, because we find in our church here in Antioch a new tendency against the ecumenical movement, and in working with this debate, this corpus of DURR, we can maybe make things more cold and less enthusiastic. Sorry for being too long. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Professor, and thank you for your really deep study of this Christian Arabic literature and debate that was in history. And you're really right that it's very important for ecumenical dialogue. Maybe some of you have questions to Professor Ronney. If not, you have time to think about it, and maybe later you will have a chance to ask Professor. Right now, I want to move ahead a little bit because we need to be on a time. And the next speaker goes from Slovenic countries, from Ukraine, and he will talk about maybe a little bit provocative